let's get into the Florida's 2025 potential. Florida's schedule next year, still top 5 most difficult schedule in the country from an early perspective. It is a bit easier. I mean, when you say top 5 for schedule, it's not easy. I mean, it's not Ole Miss's schedule or Missouri's schedule from this year. But, I mean, compared to this gauntlet, maybe the hardest schedule of all time, it is much easier than that. But we open up the season with Miami again. Or I don't know if the order, but I know we play at Miami. At Miami. I mean, Miami as a road game. That's as neutral site of a road game as it gets, really. And not as home as a neutral site gets, as you'll see, like, when teams will play a bowl game where it's the Sugar Bowl. Is it Sugar Bowl that plays in Atlanta? I think so. Or it was the Sugar Bowl. Where teams will come to Georgia and they'll play in Atlanta. That's basically just a Georgia home game. But let me restart this for the video. What does Florida's team look like in 2025? Well, if we see how Florida ends this season, I think that's going to really determine a lot. Florida still plays Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and FSU in that order. 3 of those teams are ranked inside the top 16. I think Ole Miss is 16, maybe 15. I haven't really looked at the new AP poll that much. So, how do we end this season? Well, I think the biggest question is, what is DJ Lagway's injury? He's getting his MRI done as of today, November the 3rd on Sunday. We were told he's getting his MRI done today. I'm going to take one last look to make sure we haven't gotten any update on his MRI. Which I see nothing. So hopefully we'll get that update on Monday the 4th. But to this point, from here... Okay. Without Lagway, this offense is going to be really tough to handle. It's going to be tough for the quarterback, Aiden Warner or Clay Millen, to handle. Yeah, it's brutal for any team. As we saw versus Georgia, once Warner got in, the team scored 10 more points. I mean, the offense just kept... I mean, really, it's just a lot of QB play, man. I mean, you bring in Aiden Warner, and I'm going to give him some points that will make you say, hey, maybe there's a chance. This was his first time playing an FBS team at the level of Georgia. Comes in mid-game, probably didn't expect to play. I mean, who expects the backup to get hurt after the starter's already gotten hurt for the season? They probably didn't have a game plan ready for Warner to go in. And if they did, or they probably did, but at a very minute level. So now they're going to have a week to prepare Warner a game plan, get some early drives, maybe find more things that he is comfortable with, and also open up the run game. They did score 10 points on the most talented defense in the country in Georgia. So that is a bright spot. 10 points isn't really a bright spot. But when you look at the other teams we play, Texas defense is still very suspect. It's a good defense. Don't make me wrong there. But it's not as good as Georgia's defense. I mean, I saw in the comments saying the kid only made one mistake. He also didn't do anything to help the team. Because it's not if you don't make the mistake. Because here's the thing. Let's say we go into this Texas game and he doesn't make mistakes. He's still really not that great of a thrower. So we're going to need him either to grow a lot in this 1 week he has to prepare, or we're going to need Billy Napier to come up with a game plan, maybe find some like wildcat stuff to run that can get the defense on its feet. Because right now, if you're a Texas fan, if you're a Texas coach, you're a Texas player, and you see Aiden Warner starting, they're 100% committing to stopping the run. And maybe you'll have a couple drives of success that can get us a couple scores. But outside of that, maybe we get a big play. Texas should be able to stop it. it will take a Herculean effort from our offense to just only have a run game and still put up enough points to win. Okay, then you look at the LSU game. So say we lose that Texas game, go into that LSU game, because this is looking at 2025. The defense is what matters really in these final 4 games. Because if the offense struggles with Aiden Warner, it's just like, man, you can't really blame the O-line for not making space because they're run committing. LSU, say we lose that. Say we lose some close games throughout the entire time where maybe the defense is shutting them down in the first half, but then come the second half, they're just insanely wore out. And then let's say we lose like a 27 to 13 type of games where it's just keep it close, but the offense just can't sputter enough to win the games. Well, here's the thing. You look at it, say we finish 5-7, say we still beat FSU, we lose to LSU, we lose to Ole Miss, we lose to Texas, we finish 5-7. You got to give the team credit, I feel, if they keep those games close. I'm not saying that's what I think is going to happen. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. But if they keep it close, that defense going into next year is going to have a lot of hype on it. I mean, they're already suffering from a ton of injuries. They'll get, I mean, it's a really young team too. Still can't forget that Florida's one of the youngest teams in the country. So there's no reason to think that the defense would regress hypothetically if they keep playing at this elite level or good level they're playing at. If anything, we should think that they'll get better. I mean, especially if you count the fact that we should bring in some senior level transfers that can help this young bunch continue to grow. You go into 2025. If you're 5-7, keeping Billy Napier at 5-7 from a standpoint of just looking at records, he's 15-18 in his career, I believe, at UF. That's not the Gator standard. There's fans that if we go 5-7 that are calling for his head, even if those games are close, because all they care about is, did you win or lose? They don't care if it's against FCS. They don't care if it's against Georgia. A win is a win and a loss is a loss. I don't really see it that way. I'm on the track that if he keeps those games close, we don't lose a ton of players to the transfer portal. This defense will carry on to next year. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. So then you look at the fact that, hey, you played end of year 3-4 top 10 teams, depending on where everyone finishes, another 1 or 2 top 15 teams where you lost to them close, where if you just had a little bit more offense, if you just had less injuries, because I mean, if we're the most injured team in the country next season or in the SEC next season, then maybe that's a problem that's on strength and conditioning. But I mean, we're the most injured team in the SEC this year, where we probably win some of those games without it. I feel like you've got to cut them some slack for that. Then you look at 2025. I mean, Miami without Cam Ward. What are they going to be? They're probably going to go for a transfer. I don't really think Emory Williams is the answer for them. Their defense looks insanely bad as of late. That's a game that with DJ Lagway with an improved defense, Jaden Ball, underratedly talented offensive line. I'm not going to say it's a very talented offensive line, but I feel like it gets a bit overhated. Although I do think it could be better. But I think it's better than a lot of teams it's better than a lot of other teams. Where maybe we didn't get that elite guy that we could have got, but we still got a couple 4 stars, some high-level 3 stars that we've seen develop, like Bryce Levette. I have really loved what I've seen from Bryce Levette, and he's not starting. He's getting a ton of playing time, though, at both guard positions. Kanjai Harris will be starting again, his second year starting. Maybe we bring back a Jake Slaughter or Austin Barber, who will be senior-level guys. But there is the one thing a comment did just point out, making the assumption that these players will come back if you keep Billy. That is a possibility. But here's the way I look at it. Man, sorry. If this team continues to play hard for Billy at the end of this season and keep these games close, I don't see why they would leave. Because if this team is showing fight still, I don't know how many other teams you can say that you've seen at this point in the season that are still competing with top 10 level teams, top 15 level teams. And you get to the point to where they find a way to keep their coach where they leave. They enter the transfer portal. They go somewhere else. Because they would have quit on Billy if they were going to enter the portal. They would quit on the team, not on... Yeah, they would quit on the team, not on themselves trying hard. But from a teammate perspective, they would go to try and make individual plays to boost themselves instead of trying to make plays for the team to where maybe now they're not getting that sack, but they're still contributing to make the incomplete pass happen instead of going for that selfish sack play that wouldn't even be guaranteed to happen. Interesting point there. If Napier is fired, you got to make a list of 10 to 20 candidates. Yeah, you do, because Billy was really the only candidate. Let's get back onto this topic. Sorry. So Miami, without Cam Ward, don't know who the QB is going to be. If we have Lagway, we return this defense. Still have Jaden Ball, Aiden Micelle. Already said underrated talent to the offensive line. That could be a win. USF should be a win. Florida A&M should be a win. FSU should be a win. Okay. So you're hoping to look at 4-0 in the non-conference. But, we'll say maybe we trip up to an FSU or Miami. Maybe one of them's better. Maybe Miami ends up getting a big transfer QB. So I would hope it's 4-0. Then you look, okay, hosting Tennessee. Tennessee hasn't won here in forever. In my lifetime, they've never won in the Swamp. Nico, maybe he takes that next stride. Maybe he doesn't. The defense is going to lose a lot for Tennessee because they're experienced NFL draft type players. If the offense doesn't take a step, that's going to be a game we're favored in, a game we probably should win. We're going to play Kentucky on the road. Kentucky, they're just going down. We don't even know if Mark Stoops will be their coach next year. Kentucky should always be a win. Ole Miss loses nearly its entire starting lineup, and a lot of their two deep. That's a game that you should probably have as a win, even if it's at Vaught Hemingway. We don't even know if Lane Kiffin will be their coach next year. Heard some murmurs of him going not just to places like Florida, but some other places in the Big Ten or to get out of the SEC. Don't take that with a grain of salt, though. He could stay. So then you look at the rest of our schedule. Hosting LSU. They should lose Garrett Nussmeier to the NFL. They might not. That's a game where we've seen their defense. Maybe their defense finally takes that step like ours, I feel like, has. So that's possible. I feel like that's a game that you just don't really trust them to win. They're either going to be probably starting a transfer, or if they keep Bryce Underwood, true freshman QB. Okay, I feel hyped about our freshman QB, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But it's a game on the road in Death Valley, though. I'm not going to say it should be a win. I'm not going to say it should be, but it could be. So then we look at the other games on our schedule at A&M. A&M is getting better and better. That's a game that could go 50-50, but in College Station. So maybe you lean A&M there. Texas comes to the Swamp. I'm going to be honest. Arch Manning's going to be starting for Texas next year, likely. I don't think he's that good. I don't think they're going to lose a lot of their offensive weapons. That's a game that could be a win. Would probably be favored. If what I'm saying comes true in this scenario, that's a game that could be a win. Should be a win. Or not should, but would be favored in. So then you're just looking at Georgia. Damn. We should have beat them this year. No reason to see why we couldn't beat them next year. That's a game where they're going to have a new starting QB. Maybe Jaden Rashada is going to end up being theirs. Oh, yes, at home, Mississippi State. Also, that's kind of like Kentucky, where it's probably going to be a win. Even if we suck, that should be a win. But then you're stuck to Georgia. Rivalry game. We saw it this year. Anything can happen. If the team keeps playing like it is, that's a game that Florida could win. I mean, then you're looking at a team that could be vying for a playoff spot because those could win games. There's probably 3 games on there, 4 games at most that in this scenario would be possible losses. I'd say 2 of those are games where I would favor us. And then 1 is like 50-50. And then Georgia, where we would probably be underdogs, well, we could still win. That's a playoff team. That's a team that could be in the playoffs in 2025. I just feel like this is something we need to talk about. Now, as I said at the beginning of this, the way we end this season determines that, because if the defense quits and I mean the offense can't do anything and we get blown out, Billy's going to be gone regardless. So I don't want to read too deep into that. I just want to say this team has the talent and potential that we've seen in the past 4 games. And if we continue seeing it, that could be a path we see later on. Could be. I mean, maybe all that still happens, and then Billy just poops the bed again, and we end up being trashed, and then we're just another year down the drain, and recruiting doesn't get better. And then we're just another year behind having to fire a coach. But we would save about $8 million in buyout money.